Hi, we are here to talk about equitable education through culturally responsive teaching. I am Ashley Jones and I'm a middle school science teacher.
My name is Nashayla Cox and I teach social studies for 6th through 12th grade.
I'm Julia Reams and I teach middle school science.
My name is Chanel Shepard. I teach elementary school, 5th grade math.
So basically our overview, we're going to be going through our introduction, a problem statement, purpose statement. We're going to talk about our literature review, pedagogical applications and implications that we found in our studies. The first thing we're going to do obviously is go through a little bit of the introduction. So basically culturally responsive teaching incorporates the student's experience, custom and perspectives into the classroom environments and instructions. And this type of instructions help students feel like their cultures are represented and that they are important. It also brings their communities into the classroom and into the educational setting. But there's a little bit that we need to make sure that we understand, and to incorporate this type of instruction into the classroom, teachers have to understand the variety of cultural and community norms that they have that are present within their students and the students' families. They also have to have adequate professional development. Teachers have to have adequate professional development and training on how to apply culturally responsive teaching and implement correctly. And they must also understand cultural competence and understand the disparities to implement appropriate strategies.
Okay, our problem statement. Equity can only exist when educators modify their instruction to include culturally responsive teaching that reflects the cultural heritage, experiences, and perspectives of ethnically diverse learners. It is critical to the success of every school in our nation to provide high quality instruction to each student in order to achieve educational equity. According to Hunter, the teacher is the predominant person that can provide an equitable education for diverse students. Our purpose statement. The purpose is to provide educators with strategies that can be used to implement culturally responsible teaching in the classroom. Also to bring awareness of the need of effective culturally responsive teaching preparation programs for in-service and pre-service teachers, and to bring awareness of the culture gap that exists between students and their teachers and how they play a significant role in the academic and achievement gap among students.
So we looked into our literature review, and our literature review, when we were researching it, researching information about providing equitable education through culturally responsive teaching, there were 3 main themes that we identified in our research that were significant. Professional development application. So we further broke this down into the needs for additional professional development and instructional strategies. And these articles discuss the need for professional development for teachers and the need for education programs to incorporate how to use and implement culturally responsive teaching strategies. We also have cultural competence. So these articles go into detail about how important it is to understand and have an awareness of cultures of the students and obviously of the families, and disparities. These articles talk about how teacher bias and misunderstood cultural differences can contribute to inequity in the classroom.
Okay, numerous articles that we found highlighted the need for effective professional development programs that prepare teachers to work more effectively with diverse student populations. That's highlighted, and Hernandez designed a study to determine how in-service teachers perceive their preparedness to teach CRP in a classroom. And basically the results of that study and other studies indicated that culturally relevant teaching strategies are a necessity if teachers want to engage in their students. Findings from Bew and Fagan support that culturally responsive framework, which says that students whose teachers implement culturally relevant teaching strategies are more engaged, socially connected, have higher rates of community involvement, school participation, and increased academic achievement.
Okay, so next we have cultural competence, and that basically just refers to the ability of an individual to understand, respect values, attitudes, beliefs, and morals that differ across cultures and consider and respond appropriately to those differences in the planning, implementing, and evaluating educational programs and interventions. Educational programs will refer to in-service or pre-service teachers that are in school and provide them with the strategies that they need. The interventions would be things that teachers can implement in their classrooms that will impact the students. It would expose, sensitize, and prepare teachers and their students. Some of the other strategies include cultural immersion, which exposes individuals in different cultures. Immersion activities require individuals to integrate into a culture, interact with people, and develop an understanding. Service learning is a strategy that connects academic learning and community service. There are a multitude of benefits, but some of them include increased personal and social development, enhanced civic responsibility and citizenship, improved academic achievement and learning, as well as heightened relationships between communities, teachers, and students. Across our research, a lot of the studies address the need for cultural competence training from a multitude of angles. So we have a mixed method study that basically interviewed pre-service teachers and asked them a series of questions. We have a case study that was based on racially, ethnically, linguistically, economically, and politically and cultural diverse contexts that asked students to work through formal method applications that basically pointed back to the strategies that educators or teachers use in their classroom with them. There was another qualitative study that surveyed or interviewed 7 urban African-American teachers. And it's important to know that urban refers to location rather than a race. So it is African-American teachers that teach in that setting. And the purpose of it was to see how they use culturally relevant pedagogy for a specific issue, which was social justice. Another study from our research examined the influence of culturally responsive teaching on academic growth and achievement of middle school Black male students. Another, because isn't the last, but another one interviewed high school students of color in reference to cultural responsive teachers. So you see there's a wide range there going on addressing the same topic. Next, we have cultural disparities. Cultural disparities address outside factors that influence culturally responsive teaching. One of the studies, Walker conducted a mixed method study that examined the influence of culturally responsive teaching on academic growth. As I said earlier, basically, cultural disparities refer to those socioeconomic factors, growing up in a single parent household, poverty level, low income. All of those factors affect, they happen in a classroom and they have an impact. And a lot of the research pointed to the fact that students who experience these also experience bias from teachers. So they might be treated differently based on their socioeconomic background. Questions to make sure that you avoid this can actually guide you in your direction for effective culturally responsive teaching. So you might want to ask, how is the literacy achievement of students influenced when culturally responsive teaching is implemented? If you cannot answer that, then it is probably not implemented and you might want to approach it a different way. What social norms exist among young adults regarding cultural competence? And have you observed or learned anything unique about your students' culture, background, and environment? If you look down at the image, that was actually taken from one of our articles where they actually looked at the effect size of those questions on the teachers.
So applying all of this, so what the researchers said was one of the first steps that we really have to take is developing cultural competence. that was one of the big things, is that teachers have to be culturally competent to be able to apply this. This can help overcome some stereotypes and preconceived notions. Teachers should read and discuss topics related to race, gender, sexual orientation to improve their cultural competence. And educators should demonstrate empathy, compassion, and caring towards their students to build a positive space for academic success. So once educators have built that cultural competency, you can begin to implement. And so one of the things you should refrain from when implementing is microaggressions. So that's like little snubs and insults that are unintentional perhaps and portray negative feelings to the other person. Some of those are really common are things like mispronouncing students' names or not appreciating students' different dialects or ways of pronunciation. So we really want to be mindful of that. So teachers implementing culturally responsive teaching should acknowledge students' voices, intertwine interest in the learning, offer different assessment types, create positive classroom environments and relationships that foster academic risk-taking, selecting texts that are relevant, implementing real-world application opportunities for students, utilizing gameplay, collaboration, hands-on activities, things like that, and being flexible and adaptable. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We have to be able to update and change to meet the unique needs of our current students. So some implications and what we can do. We can build a positive classroom environment that's safe, free of microaggressions, and create clear expectations for all students. Develop that cultural competency for both teachers and admin. We need to see that as continuous area of growth and development as students are constantly changing, our classrooms are constantly diversifying. We should build relationships with our students, make sure we're differentiating to meet the needs of our students. We should implement this daily. One of the biggest mistakes with culturally relevant teaching is that it's often seen as something like implementing a celebration for Cinco de Mayo, but this has to be really something that's implemented every single day and not just for celebrations.
So basically what we have gone over here is, so there are many elements that need to be incorporated to ensure that culturally responsive teaching is effective and inclusive of all students. And one of the most important steps is to incorporate this framework. The framework is to ensure both pre-service teachers and in-service teachers are given basic training and professional development to implement the correct strategies. We also need to make sure training teachers in culturally responsive teaching will ensure teachers better understand how to use the framework correctly in their classroom. Culturally responsive teaching will open to dialogue into understanding why it's important to have cultural competence and overcoming disparities within the educational setting. And also students will learn best when they're actively involved and feel represented. Incorporating student culture and customs into the classroom helps students feel seen, lead to more productive and positive learning environments for all students to thrive.
All right.
These are our resources.
Sorry.
So, yeah,
our contact information. And one other thing I did want to point out real quick, for some reason, our lit map was passed. So here's if anybody wants to view it. Thank you guys.